Welcome back everybody, my name is Nick930 and today we're going to look at the top 10 most difficult bosses in Bloodborne. I've had this game on the back burner for months now and I finally took some time to sit down and play through it in its entirety. I just completed it this weekend, so I thought it would be fun to list out all the bosses that gave me the most trouble throughout my playthrough. Now I'm just giving you guys a heads up, I haven't touched the DLC for Bloodborne, so none of those bosses will be included in this list. And I'm also not going to list any of the bosses that appear in the Chalice dungeons. I haven't played any of those Chalice dungeons yet. So let's just get right into it. Number 10, Blood-Starved Beast. Starting off our list is an optional boss that appears early on in the game. The Blood-Starved Beast resides in a large chapel at the bottom of Old Yharnam, and just getting down there is hard enough, with a minigun hunter sniping at you as you run around outside and fight crazy poison hag enemies. The boss itself is medium-sized and can move extremely fast with unpredictable attacks. I beat this boss on my first try, but just barely. Once you bring this boss's health down below 50%, it begins using more poison-based attacks, and towards the last 30%, you'll be stuck in a non-stop poison cloud that will kill you if you don't take antidotes frequently enough. Towards the end of this fight, I had completely run out of antidote and had to throw everything I had at it before I died, and I managed to luck out, but it was definitely a challenge and earned a good spot on this list. Next up is Rom the Spider. This boss was a weird one that I thought would be easy at first, but ended up being pretty overwhelming pretty quickly. It took maybe 3 tries to kill this thing because once it gets down to its third phase, it begins shooting off these crazy asteroids that can hit you hard and take away a ton of health. The opening parts of this fight are easy, with the player being forced to kill a bunch of spiders and then smack a big fat spider in the middle that moves pretty slowly. But yeah, once he starts doing body slams and sending out weird asteroids, this fight really starts to get frustrating. Number 8, Amygdala. Amygdala is another boss I struggled with, and I can't remember how many times I've fought this freak. Amygdala has a ton of health, and the only parts of its body that are weak are difficult to hit unless you have the right weapons. Her hands hang down occasionally within a short time window, and I use these to deal most of my damage, but she has a ton of forward-facing attacks that you need to be careful to avoid if you don't want to die right off the bat. Number 7, Gehrman the First Hunter. I've read everywhere that Gehrman is the hardest boss in Bloodborne, but I couldn't disagree more. He's not easy, he's a very fast-moving boss with access to lots of different weapons, and his gun makes the ending a real pain because it can put you in a vulnerable state that lets him visceral attack you, killing you instantly. But you can visceral attack him too, which made it easy for me to kill this guy only on my second try. Number 6, Shadow of Yharnam. The Shadow of Yharnam is actually 3 bosses for the price of 1. These Grim Reaper looking guys hang out at the end of the Forbidden Woods and each have their own signature weapon that requires a different approach to attack them. Killing even one of these guys makes the remaining bosses even more difficult. Once you get down to that last guy, they start sending giant snakes out of the ground that can drop your health a crazy amount, making this a difficult boss at the mid-game point. Number 5, Mergo's Wet Nurse. When I first attempted this boss, I thought I might kill it on my first try. That was until it shrouded the area in a purple fog, and 10 more of them appeared out of nowhere and completely destroyed me. This boss looks insane, with tons of arms and swords and lots of hard-hitting, long-sweeping attacks. I found the best way to kill it was to dodge towards it and get behind it for a few quick hits and then run away like a coward. This gave me quite a bit of trouble as I raced towards the ending this past weekend. Number 4, the Moon Presence. Speaking of ending, the Moon Presence is the actual final boss in the game, and after beating Gehrman, I expected this bonus boss to be much easier, but instead I was treated with a crazy huge and fast moving bony mess of a monster that has a ton of far reaching attacks that can drop your health a ton. If that wasn't enough, the Moon Presence has this one attack that can't be avoided that will drop your health to 1% instantly. You can sprint up and then smack the boss a bunch of times to try to get your health back, but it can really screw you over if you're not prepared for it. Towards the end of the fight, it starts emitting these weird bubbles that can prevent the use of health potions, meaning you're stuck with whatever little health you had left until you finish it off or until the effect wears off. I had quite a bit of trouble with this and almost called it quits for the night, but somehow managed to kill it with only 5 total health potions left on my character. Number 3, Martyr Logarius. Here's a boss that I really did just call it quits for the night. This secret boss high up on a frozen castle has a ton of spellcasting attacks that can drain your health quickly, making it a difficult fight simply because you'll run out of health potions if you're not fighting aggressively. Once you get his health down halfway, he starts flying around even faster and even throws his sword into the ground, causing a storm of blades to rain down on you while he attacks you with a fast and long-reaching staff. I ended up using a bunch of well-timed parries and visceral attacks to finish this guy off, but it took me a ton of tries, and the long sprint back to the start of this fight was a real pain to deal with whenever I wanted to retry him. Number 2, Father Gascoigne. I really wanted to make this guy my number 1 pick simply because I ended up putting this game down for months after attempting him countless times. This boss is incredibly difficult and only the first boss in the game. Once you start the fight, he attacks you with some aggressive melee attacks and will occasionally shoot at you. Once he gets down to 60%, he starts using his trick weapon, which extends his range, and he starts using his gun way more often, which can be a total pain to deal with. But the worst part is when he gets down to 50% and turns into a freaking werewolf, where all of his attacks are incredibly fast, far-reaching, and close to impossible to dodge, with tons of annoying tombstones in the way. I ended up learning how to do effective parry attacks and visceral follow-ups to help get through this first couple phases, and then found that rolling towards his attacks when he's a werewolf made the fight more bearable. But I still dread even thinking about this boss, as it almost kept me from enjoying the rest of the game. And before I reveal my top pick, here's a few honorable mentions. And finally, my number 1 pick for most difficult boss I faced in Bloodborne is definitely Ebrietas, the Daughter of the Cosmos. This boss was a complete pain to deal with, mainly because of how much health it had and how incredibly powerful all of its attacks were, many of which could instantly kill you. The worst attack is easily her charge attack that she can use to cross the half the arena within a second, and it's incredibly difficult to dodge thanks to her huge size. In addition to this, the lock-on camera makes it really difficult to see where you are and where you're going when you're trying to dodge her moves up close. One good tactic I ended up using was attacking her chest and jumping to the side when she did her head slam move. Her head was the weakest part, which I took advantage of whenever I could, but occasionally she would hit me with her head even when I was far from the strike zone, and it would drop my health a crazy amount. And before I could even react, she'd slap me with one of her several tentacles. This boss drove me insane for a week, and I struggled to find an easy way to beat her. I called in AI hunters to help me, I tried summoning an online player to assist me in co-op, I tried searching the game for a stronger firearm to shoot at it from long range, but everything I tried ended up being useless against her, and I just had to keep retrying over and over and over until I managed to successfully avoid her attacks long enough for me to kill her. But yeah, that's just my list of top 10 most difficult bosses in Bloodborne. What do you guys think? What bosses did you struggle with the most in this game? Is it worth picking up the DLC for this game or playing through those challenge dungeons? Let me know in the comments below, and if you haven't already, make sure you like and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you all next time.